Hi, and welcome to this first live. My name is Anna Mapson, and I'm really excited to be kicking off the first live of the festival, talking about the foundations of nutrition. So, for those of you who haven't seen me before, my name is Anna Mapson. I am a registered nutritional therapist, and I work with people who have IBS and gut health issues. But tonight I'm going to be talking about the foundations for nutrition. So, what are the basic things that you can do and you can put into practice straight away? Now, a lot of nutrition advice is kind of basic anyway. We hear all the public health information messages about what we should be doing, eating more vegetables, basically, drinking water, all of those things. So, I'm going to cover a bit of that, but I'm also going to start explaining a little bit about why and trying to give you some basic takeaway things that you can start putting into practice straight away so that you can start building up your sense of wellness right from a cellular level, from the ingredients that you're putting into your body. They go to build our body and they make such a difference to our mood, to our feeling of well-being. So one of the first things I want to start with is talking about the actual food that we eat with. Of course, I'm going to get onto that. But I also wanted to think about our body as a kind of environment for growth as well. It's not just about the diet, it's also about how we care for our body and think about our body. It's made up of all the different cells and muscles and bones, but it's also our mental state. And that's why I think the Anti-Burnout Club is so fantastic, because it's so holistic. And it's really part of caring for our mental health, our emotional health as well, and really sort of learning to take all of that into consideration. So when I work with new clients, sometimes they just want to know, like, what is the one supplement I can take? What is the one pill I can have that will make me feel better? And often it's really about our whole body and like taking a step back and looking at our whole life and seeing how that all fits together. So let's just get into a couple of things. I'm going to talk about the key macronutrients. So those are fat, proteins, and carbohydrates. And first of all, we'll talk a little bit about those, and then we'll go into some little tips and things that you can take away. So I wanted to start with fiber. Fiber is basically found in foods like pulses, whole grains, nuts and seeds, fruits and vegetables. And fiber is essentially a carbohydrate. It's one of the starches that our body can't break down properly. So it's in these plant-based foods, and it is not able to be broken down. Like the human body can't digest some types of fiber. And so what that means is it travels through our digestive system down into our gut, where in our large intestine we have got trillions of microbes, and these microbes are there waiting to be fed the fiber. Now, that's one of the reasons why fiber is important, because it feeds the gut bacteria. The reason the gut bacteria are so important is that they interact with our immune system. So they help to send messages to our immune system, which train up the immune system and kind of help it to react to things that we don't want getting in, so it can build an effective barrier. They also help, the microbes help us keep the lining of our gut really well put together, so there's no gaps in it, and things stay consistently just going through us, not moving into any gaps between the cells. So the bacteria actually help to form the mucus lining, or they help to, like, the cells of the intestines to stay solid, to stay working. So that's one of the reasons that fiber is so important, is that it feeds these gut bacteria, and these are so helpful to us. Like, humans cannot digest their food properly without the gut bacteria. But the other thing that fiber does is it fills us up and keeps us going. And generally, it's all kind of low energy density food. So thinking about like lentils and brown rice and vegetables, fruits. These are all foods that we can eat like pretty much quite freely without any concerns about overeating, because they're quite low energy density, like low, I don't like to say just low calorie, but they're low in energy. So fiber fills us up because it is bulky. It takes up a lot of room in our tummy, and so that then helps us feel fuller for longer, and it also just gives us a bit of energy through the day. So the recommendation is to eat about 30 grams of fibre in a day. And most of the stats that we've got show us that people in the UK are eating about 18 to 20 grams. So we can all increase our fibre levels and try and increase the amount that we're getting. And that's partly where some of the recommendations around getting our 5 a day stem from. So we need to eat more of those kinds of foods. So fibre is one of the things really, really important. The next macronutrient I want to talk about is protein. And protein is found in meat, fish, eggs, yogurt, and also nuts and seeds, and again a bit in pulses and other foods like lentils. And also tofu as well. That's another vegetarian source of protein. Now, protein is really important because it's basically the building blocks of all our cells. So when we eat protein, it gets broken down into amino acids. These amino acids form the building blocks of our muscles, our bones, our hormones, our neurotransmitters. And so it's really important for things like muscle repair, for helping us recover from illnesses, in terms of helping to build the right kind of digestive enzymes, things that break down our food, but also all our mental health triggers, so things like neurotransmitters. These are all made and require enough protein. And if you were thinking, maybe I don't know if I've got enough protein in my diet, one of the ways we can sometimes see it, not always, but sometimes see it reflected, is if you have very, very poor quality nails. So your nails are always splitting and peeling. Maybe your hair is a little bit sort of dank and lank and hanging down and feeling quite dull. Maybe you're just feeling very, very tired all the time. So sometimes, not always, but that can be an indication that you need a little bit more protein in your diet. Now, again, the recommendations for protein are quite varied, but around 50 grams of protein a day, depending on your body size, depending on your activity levels, will be very, very different for everybody. But that's a kind of minimum level that everyone should be aiming for. Now, if you are eating a vegetarian or vegan diet, it can be a little bit harder to hit those targets. Not impossible at all, but just a little bit harder. You need to think about protein, if you're a vegan, especially at every meal, every time you're eating, in order to try and get to anywhere near those levels. And you can get protein, like I said, very easily and readily in animal-based food. So things like meat, like chicken and bits of fish, but also things like eggs as well. You can just add them to your diet. So another reason that protein is important is it helps us balance our blood sugars. So when you have quite a slow release of energy from the food that you eat, it will help you keep that stable release of energy throughout the day. Will help to maintain your blood sugars, which can then help as a knock-on impact on your energy level. So what we don't want is when you have great big handful of biscuits and chocolate, you get a bit of a sugar rush, a real spike of energy, and you're like, oh, okay, now I can get on and do things. But then immediately your body will crash, well, not immediately, but quite soon after that. And so when we're eating more things that are more of a slower energy release, things that are high in protein and high in fibre, our body will break that down slower, and that means that we are able to keep going for longer and we don't get those peaks and troughs in energy. Those peaks and troughs in energy where we're feeling suddenly really low again and we just need to reach for some more stodgy carbohydrates, that can often exacerbate things like anxiety and feelings of worry or panic. If you have any of those, maintaining your blood sugars and trying to get that slow release energy can be really beneficial. Okay, then the third macronutrient that I wanted to talk about is fat. And fat is something that we kind of were taught to avoid and to completely ignore during the 80s. It's all really fashionable to have a low fat diet. And then we've kind of got the other extreme where people are eating only fats or a very high fat diet and things like the ketogenic diet, which is where people don't eat any carbohydrates or any sugars and they just eat fats and proteins. And so these are the two total extremes of dieting. Now, most people will sit somewhere happily in the middle. We don't have to go to those two extremes. The two particular fats that I wanted to mention that well, actually, there's lots of different types of fats, but the ones I want to talk about that you can try and increase more and trying to eat more of is omega-3 fatty acids. Now, these are found mostly in oily fish, things like, and they are the fishy fish, like the more smelly fish. If you're not a fish person, and probably these are the ones that you don't like. There's things like mackerel and salmon, anchovies, herring. These have got higher levels of omega-3. Omega-3 fats have been shown to be very, very beneficial in heart disease, and like reducing the mortality risk, like the risk of dying from heart problems and cardiovascular disease, and also reducing inflammation in the body. And each cell that we've got is coated in fat, and we need a good mix of omega-3 and omega-6 to allow messages to get into the cell via the cell membrane, and they wiggle in between the layers of fat. Now, most people are not getting enough omega-3 fats in their diet, and that's because we're not really eating much fish in this country. People don't eat the 2 portions of oily fish that are recommended by the government. Now, if you don't eat fish, or for whatever reason, you can get omega-3 supplements. You need to check whether they're suitable for you. They don't mix with every type of medication. So don't just start taking them. If you are taking medication, do check with your doctor. But for some people, it can be a good way to get that omega-3 into your diet without eating fish. Now, if you're vegan, obviously you don't even want to take fish oils. Some people will be able to access algae-based omega-3 supplements, which is from the algae, the seaweed that grows in the sea, and then the fish eat the seaweed, and then they basically harvest the oil out of the fish. But you can get an oil capsule that's just made in a vegan capsule with gelatin-free capsule, just with the algae. So that will be one way of getting omega-3 into your diet. Now, there isn't really a good way of getting omega-3 in through food, and there are some sources of a particular type of omega-3, but they're not the sort of omega-3 that's readily available to our body. So things like flaxseed, hemp seeds, walnuts to some extent as well, they have a version of omega-3 in them, but your body has to work hard to convert it to a type of omega-3 that it can actually be used in the cell. And so it's not a reliable source, but of course they're very healthy, good things to be adding into your diet. So whilst we're on the subject of fats and like talking about different types of fats, there can be some confusion as well about vegetable oils and omega-6. Sorry, excuse me, I was a little bit croaky. I had a cold last week. So omega-6 fat is another type of the polyunsaturated fat. They are mostly found in vegetable oils. Like I said, that's our kind of most freely consumed type of omega-6. They're also highly available in nuts and seeds and that sort of thing as well. Now, the bit of confusion that people have about them, and this is probably taking it away from basics, I'm like launching into something a little bit more complicated here, but for those of you who want the next level up, some people might be afraid of eating too much omega-6 fats, and actually what the research says is that there is no evidence that increasing your omega-6 fats actually leads to further inflammation in humans. So there is quite a lot of misinformation about this, I would say. Now, I'm not suggesting anyone starts downing bottles of oil or anything like that, but what I would like is that you take away from this, you don't have to be afraid of them, and you don't have to be afraid of the balance of omega-3 and omega-6 fats. Like we're all able to eat nuts and seeds and to cook with vegetable oils. That's okay. There's no harm that will come to you from that. Now, the one fat that we do need to be a bit careful of is saturated fat, and that you will find in baked cakes and products like if you buy cakes from the supermarket, if you eat a lot of butter, like those are saturated fats, and also in meat. So a lot of fatty meat that will contain a lot of saturated fat. Now there is a big link between high intake of saturated fat and heart cardiovascular conditions. So whether it's heart attacks, strokes, and high cholesterol, which is again highly associated with heart disease, then that is something that we do need to be aware of and to try and keep an eye on, I suppose. So very much depending on where your diet is now. If, for example, you have a vegetarian diet with lots of fibre, lots of vegetables, having a little bit of butter on your toast is going to be absolutely fine. On the other hand, if you're eating a lot of fatty meat every day, everything's full fat dairy, and a lot of kind of fatty cuts of meat, then you may need to address that over time again. You have to see your overall dietary pattern. And that's why I wanted to just begin by talking about those three, like fibre, protein, and fat. And those are the three kind of macronutrients that we've got to balance and we need to think about. So I've just got three then little tips or kind of things for you to focus on that you could just take away from that. So that's just like a basic introduction to some of the nutrition things that I think about with my clients. And then some of the common things that I ask them to do is the first one is to try to eat 30 different plant-based foods in a week. So this means eating different types of vegetables, fruits, grains, nuts and seeds, and pulses and beans. So the reason to do this is that, remember I said it feeds the gut bacteria in your digestive system. The more different types of fibre that you can eat will feed different types of gut bacteria. So the more variety you can get into your diet, the better that will be. The other thing is that each vegetable and fruit that you eat kind of has a different profile of antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, and these are all very beneficial for our health. So support our immune system, support hormonal health, and that's why getting a good variety is also not only good for the different types of fibre that you'll be eating, but also the different types of nutrient profile that you'll be getting. And you can't really mimic it just by taking a vitamin capsule. It's often about the nutrients that are locked up in the food matrix, so what kind of the food is made from. So the way you can try and get this 30 a week is to just write out 1 to 30, stick it on the fridge or somewhere where you're going to see it every day, and then every time you eat something different, just write it on your list. If you were to have bread, you have wheat, you can write down wheat once. Then obviously you can have wheat again, you can have maybe pasta or something else that's got wheat in it later in the week, but you can't write it down again. So you can only write it once in the week. So this is the perfect challenge if you just want to see where you are in terms of variety. Most people, I will find, get to about 20 in the first 2 or 3 days and they think, oh, this is easy, this is fine, I'm crossing them all off. Actually, it's harder to get to the last bit, so we tend to eat the same foods on a bit of a rotation. So if you're up for a little challenge, do give that a go, and I'd love to know how you get on with it. The next challenge is easy. I've mentioned it before. It's eating your 5 a day. Now, again, it's just quite common knowledge in the NHS and Public Health England, all recommending that we have 5 fruits and vegetables a day. In terms of proportions, I would say try to go for 3 vegetables and 2 fruit. And again, a lot of people are quite worried about eating fruit because of the sugar content. And I would say you don't need to worry about that. Obviously, if you are diabetic, you need to manage your blood sugars in a way that's been, that you've been taught to do so. But for the majority of people who don't have blood sugar management problems, eating 2 pieces of fruit a day, or even 3 fruit a day, will be completely fine. I know a lot of people avoid it because they want to lose weight, and I've heard a lot of my clients saying they've just got out of the habit of eating fruit and they only buy it for the kids or they don't eat it. But I'd really encourage you to try to get those 2 portions of fruit a day. It's delicious, it's really filled with nutrients and antioxidants, vitamins and minerals, and it's just a great way to get something a little bit sweet as well in your day, without reaching for the chocolate all the time as well. And then the last thing is just about eating a rainbow of different things every day. Now, I don't mean the Skittles. I mean getting, again, you can get a bit of paper and just say, which things have you had that are green today? Have you had any green vegetables? Have you had any anything purple, anything orange? And just trying to get a variety. So it's just another way of trying to eke out the variety in our diets. And it's just, yeah, so those 3 different things. You can either try to go for 30 foods, try to go for 5 a day, or try to go for different colours and the rainbow. Now, those are all very simple little challenges. I would say maybe do one at a time rather than trying to do everything at once. And that is very much my approach with my clients, is trying to change one thing at a time. So we started off with the macro, like what the basics of nutrition. Then I've just talked about those 3 little things you can do. And then I'm just going to talk a bit about like how to implement them and how to start making changes to your diet. So that was the first thing that I've already mentioned, which is just do one thing at a time. Don't throw everything out and get rid of all the biscuits and give up alcohol and go dairy free and do it all at once. I would say just try and do one thing at a time. The reason is because once we've built healthy habits, it's much easier to build on that and create more change and that's sustainable. So when we try to do everything all at once, and that's typically what happens when people go on a diet, is that they will snap and fall off the diet bandwagon and start eating all the things. And that can easily happen because our brain has only got so much willpower, space, energy for willpower. And one of the things that really helps is trying to change our environment. So that's my second thing, is when you want to change a habit, is not to rely on willpower. So if you want to make some changes to your diet, maybe it is that you want to eat more fruit, like take that as an example. Then what we want to do is try and make it easy for you to get that habit in, rather than just saying, oh, I'm sure I'll do it. So, okay, what could we mean? First of all, we want to try to make the environment support us in our goal achievement. So in the example of eating more fruit, it could be, first of all, to buy more fruit. That would be the first thing, that you can't eat more fruit if it's not in the house. Secondly, you might put it out at the night before so that you know the bits of fruit that you're going to eat tomorrow. Maybe you've got 2 kiwis, maybe you've got an orange, and you're going to put it out. Then taking it to work, or you make sure that you've got a way to take it to work, or if you need to eat it at work, perhaps you're going to pre-peel it or do something that would make it less tricky. So it's removing the barriers to you achieving that habit. And those little things, although they might seem quite basic, can have a really big impact. And that's why focusing on one thing at a time helps, because you need to think about, okay, what are all the things that are going to help me achieve this goal? And what are all the things that might stop me achieving this goal? So with the fruit example, it could be, okay, what stops me eating it? Okay, it's messy and it's annoying to peel an orange. Okay, so maybe you say, I'm going to have the orange at home, whereas, I don't know, a handful of blueberries I could easily eat at work as my snack in the morning. And then you've got your 2 portions of fruit a day ticked off. The other thing that really helps when we're making dietary changes is to have streak tracking. So you have line up all the days of the week and you're ticking it off every day that you've done it. And again, leaving it somewhere very, very visible to you, whether it's on the fridge, on your bathroom mirror, and you're literally ticking it off and you don't want to break the streak. If you've done it for 20 days, it feels like a lot of pressure to not miss that 21st day. So setting it up for yourself. And then also I think about making a reward for yourself. So by the end of, I don't know, you say you want to drink 8 glasses of water a day. So that's another kind of common thing that a lot of people have to work on, is increasing the amount of liquid that they drink throughout the day. Maybe you say, okay, if I drink 8 glasses of water every day, then I'll go to the cinema at the end of the month, or I'm going to buy a new pair of trainers, or whatever it is that you're looking forward to, or arrange a nice walk with a friend. So those kind of small things make a big difference. Just the other last thing I was going to say in terms of the basics, which I forgot to say at the beginning, was just around when we're saying what's 5 a day, is just what is a portion, because I think people get a bit confused about that as well. And a good way to measure that out is to just use your hand. So if it's something that's small, for fruit, for example, it's normally 2. So like 2 tangerines, 2 kiwis, a handful of berries. Whereas if it's something a bit larger, like a banana or an apple, you just need 1 of those to be a portion. If it's for vegetables, again, just a handful. It's about 80 grams, but handful of carrots, handful of broccoli, and 2 handfuls if it's green leafy vegetables. So that's a good way to measure if you are actually hitting a portion in a day and how many portions you might be getting. Okay, we are getting to the end now, and those are the kind of things I wanted to finish with. A little recap is just to also say that on the 12th of October, we're also running a gut-brain connection, where I'm going to be delving a lot more in a whole workshop just dedicated to the connection between your gut health, your mental health, and like how it all works. Like, how does the digestion influence our mood? What kind of things can you eat that will support mental well-being and support that gut-brain connection? Because it's a really interesting area of expertise, discovery, I suppose, and research. That was what I was trying to say. It's a really fascinating area of research that's really expanding. So I can't see any questions here, but what I'll do is I'll pop in, and if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments, and then I will come back and answer them when I can get access to them. If you if you've got any other further ideas for topics that you'd like us to hear about as part of the Anti-Burnout Club, then please drop us a line and let us know, and we'd love to run some more workshops later in the year. Okay, thank you. Bye.